So October is Down Syndrome Awareness Month. So for this week's video, we thought we'd do something a little different and talk about our son Jackson. For those of you that aren't aware, Down syndrome is actually a genetic condition where you have 3 copies of chromosome 21 instead of the regular 2. Like most people have 46 chromosomes, but Jackson is lucky and he has 47. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Down syndrome. He has trisomy 21 is what he has,
Yeah.
which is the most common form of Down syndrome.
Right. There's actually 3 forms of Down syndrome. Trisomy 21 is the most common, and that means basically in the parents, when a random event, there's nothing you do can cause it. It's not a disease or anything like that. It's not something you do when you're pregnant or not. It's
just
when
random.
when the reproductive cells are developing, a random event occurs, and you get three basically in the mother or the father, in the egg or the sperm, you get 2 copies of chromosome 21, and then when those egg and sperm come together, you end up having 3 copies, and that's the most common. Then there's also mosaic, which actually happens where you have regular sperm and egg, they come together, and then sometime during the cell division, an extra chromosome, you get an extra copy of chromosome 21. So not every cell in your body has the 3 copies. Only some do, and that's actually only affects 1% of people with Down syndrome. And then the last type is called translocation, which is actually the only form of Down syndrome that is hereditary. It's passed on from either the mother or the father. And basically what that is in the mother or father, you have your 2 copies of your chromosome, and you have part of the material from one and part of the other two, but they're mixed mash, but they balance each other out. And then what happens is during comes together, you have one normal copy of the chromosome, and you have the one that's split, and then that causes the extra material on chromosome 21 as well. And yeah, that one affects about 4% of people with Down syndrome. It's not very common either.
Jackson was our first child,
Yes.
so we had no idea how things would go because it was our first child. When I was pregnant, we had no idea that Jackson had
No, we
had
didn't
Down
have any
syndrome.
prenatal testing done, and mainly just because nobody told us about it really was the
Yeah.
reason. So
And I was on the cusp, right? So usually women over 35 is when they start testing for all like Down syndrome or any other abnormalities that you may or may not have when you're pregnant. But I was 34. So they didn't worry about it, and all my ultrasounds were normal. I didn't have any problems with my pregnancy or anything like that. The only thing that I had was I was extremely tired, and my morning sickness was, I never threw up or anything, but my morning sickness was like usually in the mid-afternoon I'd start to feel nauseous, and Jackson pretty much sucked all the energy out of my body. I was very tired most of the time, but I was working full-time at the time in the oil and gas, so I was working an 8 to 4:30 job and doing all that still on top of being pregnant. So at the age of 34. So it felt pretty normal pregnancy. I think now that I know I've had 2 pregnancies, in my second pregnancy, I had Jackson as a 5-year-old, plus I was pregnant at 40, and I kind of look back on it now and think, yeah, Jackson's pregnancy was actually pretty smooth.
yeah, he was born premature though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how many
35 weeks, and I knew exactly when I had conceived Jackson because I was taking ovulation tests because we had previous miscarriages, so I wanted to make sure that we were getting pregnant and everything, and hopefully staying pregnant. So I had conceived Jackson, and I knew exactly when, so I knew exactly how old he was. And yeah, at 35 weeks, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was probably about, well, actually, no. Yeah, I woke up to go to the bathroom. Yeah, it was early in the morning. It was probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up to go to the washroom, and when I went to take a pee, I felt a little bit more than just a pee. So I was like, whoa. So when I looked down, I noticed there's a bit of pink in my urine, and I was like, oh, that's not urine. So I woke Devin up and I said, I think I'm having the baby. So the only thing that went through my mind was take a shower, because I didn't know the last time I was going to take a shower. So I took a shower and everything. Like, I wasn't having contractions or anything. So we just went to the hospital and I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure my water's broke. So we went and we sat down and waited for the doctor, and they tested me, and sure enough, my water had broke. And of course, once your water has broke, the baby has to be born within 48 hours. I think that was what it was. I think
Something
it was
like that.
48 hours or something, because there's a higher
fluid, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
the
there's
fluid.
no
You run out
fluid.
of the fluid, and there's a high risk for infection after that. So you basically have to get induced. So what they wanted me to do is just walk around the hospital for a few hours and see if I can start labor on my own. So that's what we did, and they told me to go have a high carb, something high in carbs to eat, that kind of thing, because pretty soon I wasn't going to be able to eat anymore. So I went and had a bagel in the restaurant there, the cafeteria and stuff. And then we came back, and it was about 9:30 by that time. And I said, yeah. And they said, do you have any contractions? I'm like, no, I don't feel anything. So like, well, we're really sorry, but we're going to have to induce you. So they hooked me up to the monitors, hooked me up to everything. And they proceeded to induce me. And of course, once the Pitocin starts and they start to turn it up every hour on the hour to get your contractions going. Once my contractions were really going, I was like, okay, now I need an epidural, because I was literally sucking sheets. Like it by time, because the Pitocin, and if you had natural labor, and you is much different because your body eases into it, but because this was drug induced labor, it was like bam, as soon as you were like you were having contraction on top of contraction, so it was getting a little intense. So I did get an epidural, and once I had the epidural, it was like whew, like I could finally rest.
And then I was sad because I didn't have anything to do.
Darren was mad because he
wasn't
was
mad.
like, I was bored now, I have nothing to do. And I'm like, well, sorry. And then he'd ask me, they gave me a little button to press. And so he's like, did you just press the button? I'm like, yeah, I did. Because it would administer more of the drugs to keep me calm and happy. But the labor didn't, I think, did we get to like 6 centimeters?
I don't remember how.
I don't know. It had been a while, and they came to check me the first time, and I thought for sure I'd be at least, over like close to like 3 or 4 centimeters by then. I wasn't even 1 centimeter dilated yet. So like, oh boy. So we turned up the drugs and stuff, and it went on for a few hours. And then, yeah, and I think it was past 5 or 6. I was up to about 6 centimeters, and that's when Jaxin kind of went into distress. So what happened is his heart rate was going up during,
it was going down, and would come back up
during the contractions, but it wouldn't come back up once the contractions were over. So they were getting really concerned. So basically they said to me, look, Sherry, this is the deal. I think we should probably do a C-section because something's going on in there and Jackson's not happy. And I'm like, whatever you have to do to get him out, I don't care. I just want him here and safe and happy, right? So they're like, all right. And they warned me. They said within 30 seconds, there's going to be like 30 people in here, and we're going to have Jaxin out in literally 10 minutes. And I'm like, all right. And as soon as they say emergency C-section, well, holy crap. The whole place just turns into craziness. So, and he literally was out of me in like 10 minutes. Like it was really fast, like super fast. So we went in, I already had an epidural in, so they only had to administer the drugs to the epidural to freeze me. I was frozen in like no time and on my back, and oof, and out he came. And that was it. And he cried right away. Like,
yeah, we still didn't know at this time.
We still didn't know. And they even showed me Jaxin when he was born. Like they took him out, they wrapped him up, they brought him right over to me and showed me, and I looked at him, and nowhere in my mind did I even think he remotely looked like he had Down syndrome. Like all I saw was my cute little baby boy, and that was it. I had no clue, at all. No.
They didn't tell us anything. He
cried as soon as he was born. Like when I heard him come out, it was like within a second, the doctor said, "Oh, he's out now," and he cried right away. Like I heard him right away, and I was like relieved. That's all I cared about.
So then they were patching her back up.
Yeah, patched me up and stuff.
They took him away. Since he was premature, they had to take him to the
NICU right away. Yeah. They said no, he looks healthy, but he was premature.
He's very small.
He was small. He was 5 pounds, like 6 ounces, I think.
Yeah.
And
so he was big for premature, but he was still small baby.
Yeah, he was really small.
So it was the NCIU.
NICU.
Yeah. He was like the biggest premature
baby, yeah. Because some of those babies in the NICU were really painfully tiny. Right. So Jaxin looked like a monster compared to them. But no, he was still little. And he had some jaundice, so he had to go under the lights for a couple of days.
That was a little bit later.
Yeah. No, they put him under the lights pretty much right away.
As soon as I saw him,
yeah. And then he also had the heart.
He had the heart test,
and he had all that, and so he was healthy that way. But because he was premature, he had those. What did they call them? Not Braxton Hicks. Remember he kept having those little heart.
I don't remember.
Kind of palpitation things. Oh, I can't remember what they were called now. Shoot, he couldn't leave the hospital until that stopped. That's why he was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was longer than 2 weeks, wasn't it?
About 2.5 weeks. Because I was there for a week, and then I went home, and then it was another 2 weeks before we
like
picked
3
him up,
weeks
right?
total.
So it was like 3 weeks total, yeah.
But anyway, so back to the before that. So she was like, they were.
I had to go to the recovery room.
She had to go to recovery room, and then one of the doctors said, "I'd like to talk to you about your son." This is to me. Sherry's not even there.
No, I'm not even there.
And he's like, "I'd like to talk to you about your son." So I'm like, "Okay." So I went and I talked to him, and he's like, "We think he has Down syndrome." And I'm like, "Okay." And back, back then we didn't know what that meant.
Really meant.
We were ignorant.
Yeah.
Didn't know. So first things going through my head is mainly like, what does this mean for him? Like, what kind of life is he gonna have? And what's that type of thing is what the main thing I was thinking about. And then I went and saw Sherry after she came out of recovery, and I told her.
Yeah, he had to tell me.
Yeah, I had to tell her.
What the doctor should have done was had me and Devin in the same room together, and he should have told the both of us at the same time. But no, he kind of cowered out and told my husband, and then my husband had to come tell me.
Yeah. And they said, what he told me though is we think it is, but we'd like to do a genetic test to make 100%
They weren't 100% sure.
So and back then when you're, it's new to you, like, well, you're kind of thinking, oh, well, I hope maybe he doesn't. Yeah. But, again, it's because we didn't really know anything back then.
And I remember some of the NICU nurses going, geez, Jaxin sure just doesn't look like he has Down syndrome, right? Because even for them, this was all still pretty new, right? Like, there's not, at this time, 2007, like, there seems to be way more kids born now with Down syndrome than even before Jaxin was born. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah. It's not really there's more born. It's just there's more people are more educated
about
because
it.
The abortion, unfortunately, like whether you're pro-choice, pro-life, that's not what I hear about. But most people that find out beforehand that they're going to have a baby with Down syndrome, that's 80% termination rate.
That's true.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, we didn't know.
No.
So, so he had to stay in the hospital because he was pretty tiny, and he was having those, I can't remember what they called them. I want to say burpees even, but that's not what, brickies, braggy. There was something, I know what it was called, and I can't remember. But anyway, he was having these little attacks or whatever, and he was monitored all the time for them. And he had to stop doing that before he could come home. So I think he was 38 weeks. He was probably 38 weeks by the time he came home. So I was in the hospital with him for a full week. They didn't rush me out of the hospital or anything. They were really good. They're like, no, you've had a C-section. They gave me a private room. I could see Jaxin whenever I wanted, and everything. It was great. And then I was discharged after a week, and then Devin and I just went back for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, every day.
But like I said, and then after I told you can't just forget about it. You used to have a brand new baby. This is our first baby, so after they originally told us, yes, it was a shock at first, and we were a little scared. But then after that, we're just thinking, this is our son. We gotta take care of him, and didn't really think about it too much after that because he's in the NCI.
But when I saw him, and I'm sure Devin will put pictures in here, he was the cutest baby ever. Like seriously, oh my God, this kid was so cute. He was so cute. He did not look like a kid with Down syndrome at all.
Right.
And he had this fuzzy, like rocker dude hair when he was born, and this cute little face. Although there were signs, that I look back now and I'm like, oh yeah, he was definitely a baby with Downs because he was floppy, and he
had a full head of hair.
Horrible breastfeeder, and would not wake up. But preemies are like that because they're still supposed to be in your stomach, right? So to wake this kid up, we used to have to strip all the clothes off of him and put a cold washcloth on him to wake him up
to eat, because he wouldn't. If you didn't wake him up, he wouldn't eat because he didn't open his eyeballs for how many weeks? Like probably a month.
A month after he was home.
Before we were starting to wonder if he even had eyeballs.
Yeah. He slept a lot.
He slept like 23 hours a day.
Yeah, he slept a lot.
And remember, 60 milliliters. He used to take him in like an hour.
Yeah.
And this is old. Like actually got a little bit older because he wasn't drinking 60 at the beginning. But near the end, before we left, he was 60 milliliters he had to drink, and it would take him an hour to drink that.
Yeah.
So
when he came home, oh my gosh, that was crazy. But so when we were in the hospital, like my first reaction was, okay, he has a disability, but he's our son, so we'll just roll with the punches.
Yeah, and like
that's what we did. Like it just, I guess I grieved a little bit because I was kind of sad, but then I thought, why should I be sad? He's completely healthy. He had no heart defects. He was just premature, so he basically had the problems any premature child would have, which is the jaundice and the heart, whatever the
Right, but he doesn't have any heart. Like 50. No, was it 50?
50%.
50, yeah, 50% of children with Down syndrome actually have heart defects and have surgery, like
Major heart surgery.
major heart surgery within like the first month of
Before
their
the
life.
age of 2.
So
yeah, it's pretty scary. That's like some big stuff.
Down syndrome is a spectrum, right? So you have all varieties, right? Like that's why you say, well, you can't really compare two children with Down syndrome. Yeah, they have similar traits and features, but it's a spectrum, right? You have some that are higher functioning, some that are lower functioning, some that have higher, like in general, they have lower muscle tone, but you have some with higher muscle tone and some with lower muscle tone. Like Jaxin, he was born with hip,
low muscle tone.
right? And he was born with hip dysplasia. So he actually, when how old was he when he's had major hip surgery now. But I can't remember how old he was when he had
11.
that. 11 when he had his major hip surgery. And he's had a few other minor surgeries. He had his cross eye fixed a couple times.
Because he has the muscles in his eyes were lazy, of course. So he had cross eye a bit, so the doctors fixed that.
And he had a hernia.
Oh, yeah, he had a hernia. We fixed that.
So he's had a few, he's had more surgeries than I've had, but, for the most part, we've been pretty lucky in terms of his medical conditions.
His first major surgery was his hips.
Yes.
Was his hip. And that was huge. Huge. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in a cast for 6 weeks.
Yeah, he was in traction. He couldn't move.
Yeah, but he's
did
a
really
trooper,
good.
though.
He did really good. Oh, my God.
Like, he doesn't complain much, so
No,
he's actually, he's very laid back.
Jaxin is a very laid back kid.
Like me.
He's so easy. He's such an easygoing guy.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, though. He's has his
stubborn.
moments. He's very stubborn. But
yeah, and like
he's actually easier than Zachary is.
He is, but anyway.
I'm just saying. We didn't know what it was really like until we had Zachary.
Yeah. But anyway. No, we've been, it's just,
It's just, like, we brought him home, and like any new parent, you kind of go, now what?
Yeah.
And all we did was we just started we kept a log of everything. When he pooped, when he slept, how long he slept, how much he ate. We kept a huge log like that for probably the first year of his life. I kept it just to keep because Devin and I would take turns. Like my breastfeeding for me and Jaxin was not successful, and it usually isn't for kids with parents with kids with Down syndrome, because they can't.
Low muscle tone.
Yeah.
Plus, he was sleeping half the time. He wouldn't wake up, right? And it was even worse when she was breastfeeding. He'd fall because of the warmth and everything.
Yeah, he'd fall asleep against me.
It just wasn't
worse.
But
It
she
just made
did
things
try it,
worse,
and just.
So I pumped for 3 months, which was like enough because I felt like a machine. Because I'd wake up in the middle of the night, feed him, which would take an hour. Which, oh my God, at 2 a.m. is like forever. And then after I put him back in the crib, I'd pump. And I'd pump as much as I could. And then I'd go to bed. And then, oh my God, that already took me 2.5 hours. So now it's almost 3 hours again. And he's going to want to eat again. And he, for the most part, we pretty much in the first 3 months of his life, maybe 2, we had to wake him up for all his feedings.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Until we knew he was getting what he needed and he got faster at eating. I remember Devin and I we would take turns, and he'd get up in the middle of the night sometimes and let me sleep, and he would take my pumped milk and plus the formula. We'd mix it together because my milk supply was not very good. And he'd go feed Jaxin, and Jaxin all of a sudden would be done in 20 minutes. So I'd look in the journal in the morning and be like, 20 minutes! I was so mad. Became a contest. See who could get Jaxin to eat the fastest.
Yeah.
But once 3 months, after he was like 3 months old, he was doing pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Then he'd tell us when he was hungry, and we'd pretty much feed him, and he was getting way better at keeping awake. His eyeballs were open, and he was actually sleeping through the night.
We almost slept through the night.
The first night he slept through the night, I woke up in a sweat at 5 a.m. because I thought, oh my God, I haven't heard him. I ran into his room, and he was asleep in his crib. He was totally fine. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just kind of been seamless. It was kind of seamless when he was an infant. And when he was an infant, it was easy. Like the Down syndrome clinic at the Charlie Children's Hospital was phenomenal. As soon as they found out that Jaxin was born, they came in right away. They gave us all the information we needed. We were inducted into the clinic from the age of the 0 till he's born till he was 5 years old. They tracked him. They took care of him. We did
Wow.
sessions with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did all kinds of things with them.
Right. They
OT,
had like
PT,
physiotherapists, they had
yeah.
nutritionists,
They had everything. Anytime he had any questions, they were like the best. They came here to our home. They brought us a really lovely quilt for him that was handmade. Yeah, it was really awesome. The only thing that's really a shame now is that the Down syndrome clinic is no longer at the children's. They don't have it anymore because of budget cuts, which is really, really sad because that clinic was fantastic.
Yeah, and like because of his hip dysplasia, he actually didn't start walking till after he was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And they helped us, with the walker and helped with with the physiotherapy
therapy,
and all that
yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
he was army crawling there, so he's
For a while,
for a
yeah.
long time there.
Yeah, for a long time. And then we got an aide to come here in the home, a developmental aide. Her name was Dwyla. She was absolutely lovely. For the 3 years of Jackson's life before he went into kindergarten, she came pretty much every day. We would take him to the mall with his walker, try to get him walking. She was instrumental in getting him on his feet and walking on his own. Yeah. If we didn't have her, it would have taken us a lot
And he went to regular kindergarten.
Yep.
And he was in regular classes.
Classes
from
right up
kindergarten
until
until grade 3.
three, yeah.
He did have an aide in like grade 2, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
He
He went to
had an aide.
Coventry Hills School, and they integrated him into all the classrooms, into kindergarten, grade 1, 2, and 3 at that school. He had an aide that helped him in the class, but he was in with all the regular kids and everything. Then he went off to middle school, and in grade 4, he went into a program called Pace Learning. And that's where we kind of discovered that type of learning for Jackson was still way too advanced.
Right. So we decided, like, instead of going into a regular grade 4 class, we figured that, he just wasn't quite there, and he needed more life skills type, and they still do like educational type stuff, academics and stuff, but he just wasn't quite at that level. And people have different opinions on that. Some people think they should be integrated no matter what, but our decision was it just wasn't for him. So that's why
wasn't for Jackson.
we were going to try the pace learning. It's still in the typical regular school. It's just a special class with other students that are similar condition as him.
Because Jackson's learning is definitely way, way, way slower. And his speech is delayed by like a lot. So for communication and just typical learning, it's pretty hard for him.
Right. So we tried that for a year, and the teacher was great. She tried to make it work for him, but it was still too much for him basically. So
she tried to make his grade 4 year in the Pace Learning program the best, giving him the best chance possible to make it a successful year for him. So she basically had to alter most of his learning in the classroom away from what she was doing with the other kids. So she made him up boxes of projects and things that he could work on that were at his level. So she was phenomenal, and so was the principal at that school.
Jackson loved the principal.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was his favorite person there.
Mr. Wilson was was his buddy.
He used to go visit Mr. Wilson. Mr.
every
Wilson
day.
said he's the only kid that likes to come and see me.
See me, yeah. He was like, and I said to him, "Are you sure you want him in your office every day?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." He says, "All I ever have in my office is problems, but Jackson brightens my day." He says, "I love having him sit here, and he doesn't just sit here; he does work while he's in my office." But he said it's really nice just to have him here. And I said, "Well, that's really sweet." So yeah, the school and the teachers there, they were so awesome with Jackson. Through all of Jackson's school years, we've never come across any teachers or aides or anything that have ever given us any kind of pushback.
No, we've heard stories about other...
Yeah, we've heard a lot of horror stories about what other parents have gone through, having their kids in the Calgary public school system. And seriously, Devin and I have never had a problem. Like, everyone Jackson has come in contact with has done nothing but try to really...
And he's like I said, he's pretty laid back. He's
yeah.
not a runner because of his hips.
Yeah.
He can't go very fast. So, that makes it a little easiher too. Like there are, like I said, it's a spectrum. Like some kids with Down syndrome, have temper tantrums and that type of thing. So all have their different challenges basically.
Yeah, there's
right?
a lot of different challenges, and Jackson's just a very gentle, very easygoing kid. So I think
he can be stubborn though, and he does test them.
Yeah, and he does test his teachers.
Oh yeah.
And I told him that when he went into junior high this year. Junior high.
Yeah, he's in junior high now.
He's in grade 7.
We're skipping ahead, but anyway, after grade 3. After grade 4, sorry. It was because the pace learning was still a little more advanced for him. We actually decided to put him in a program called Skills, which is still in a regular school. It's just, it's even more life skills is what they focus on. They still do the academics as well, but it's more life skill focused, and it's individualized. So each student has their own program, and that's what his own things that he works on.
Yeah.
So and that was great for him actually. He did learn
And
quite a bit
Jaxin
there.
doesn't have like a regular report card like most children do. He has what is called an IPP, and those are goals that are put on his IPP by his teacher, and Devin and I. We all sit down and we decide what should Jackson's goals be, and we don't pick a ton. We pick maybe like 3 or 4 major goals that we want him to work on come to the next IPP, and it's usually every 4 to 6 months. I think we see her twice in a year.
Yeah.
So we see them at the very beginning of the year and we set the goals, and then we'll see her again, usually after Christmas, I think. And then we'll revisit them and see how he's doing and see if they've gotten better. If he's come to those goals, then we're going to make new goals. So yeah, and the classroom he's in right now in junior high is called Access.
Yeah, you're skipping ahead again.
Oh.
So he did grade 5 and 6 in the skill program,
Right.
and that school only went to grade 6.
6, yeah.
And then so after grade 6, we had to find a new school for him. And Access is the program Sherry was talking about. That's
in junior high.
It's the same as skills. Basically, it's just for
junior
the
high.
older kids.
Older kids, yeah.
Right. So yeah. So now he's in a junior high school. With other
Junior high kids. Yeah.
But it's still a specialized class
Program,
for him.
yeah. And they do take the kids from his classroom and integrate them into other classrooms for certain projects or things that might be going on that they find that would be beneficial to see their peers and work with their peers of the typical children. They do have, I asked them in the school if they have any kids that they consider like a role model, if any kids are willing to be role models, and they said, oh yes, definitely, that's something they're working on. There'll be role models for them. So because sometimes Jaxin can be pretty stubborn. Like about a couple weeks ago, his teacher called me and said he didn't want to get off the bus for school, and I said to him, well, sometimes he doesn't like to listen to us ladies. Sometimes he needs a male to get him off the bus. And so actually the principal and the behavioral specialist of the school are both male. So they were actually out there trying to get Jaxin off the bus. And they managed to get him off the bus. And then he sat on the sidewalk. And I said to Jackson's teacher, I said, well, do you have a student, right? Because I know he'll listen to Zachary once in a while more than he'll even listen to Devin and I. And I said, is there a role model type student? I was talking to the principal actually, and he's like, actually we do. And he said, but we didn't need it this time. But he said, that was on the top of my mind was the next thing. I said, yeah, if that ever happens again, maybe a role model student would be a good idea because he'll tend to listen to the kids his own age. So yeah, so those are just little things like that. Sometimes that happen that he was just tired and cranky. So
yeah, he gets the same as he's in swimming as well. We mentioned before, he's in Dolphin Swim Club, which is a swim club for children with Down syndrome, and he has his good days and his bad days. Some days he's great, does everything he's supposed to, no issues, and then other days he doesn't even want to get in the pool.
Yeah,
and especially when he's tired, because he has.
Yeah.
So the other thing he has sleep apnea.
That's loud.
Yeah, turn it down.
Turn it down.
He has sleep apnea, and he does have a CPAP machine, but he won't wear it, so what can you do?
Yeah, like he doesn't understand the benefit behind the CPAP machine, and until I think he gets older and then kind of understands. And they even said adults that have sleep apnea don't even like wearing the machines. So we'll just keep an eye on his heart and make sure everything stays good. And but he's never given us any worries with his apnea. Sometimes it just wakes him up in the middle of the night, but he'll get up and wander around the house sometimes, then go back to bed and goes back to sleep. So, but sometimes during the week that can kind of catch up with him. So by the time the end of the week rolls around, he can get a little bit extra cranky or tired.
Yeah, and a lot. People say, "Oh, children with Down syndrome are always happy." That's a myth. No, he's just like you and I. He has every emotion, every mood, right?
Yeah.
He can be cranky,
mad,
he can be sad,
But he's never had a full out temper tantrum. Ever. I think once in his life when he was 2, that I can remember.
No, he more just sits down and doesn't want to get up.
Because he knows he's heavy and you can't pick him up.
Yeah, like he's over 100 pounds now.
Yeah.
It's other, again, it's a spectrum, right? So yeah, in general, a lot of, people with Down syndrome are shorter and, a little overweight. And then mainly that's because there's thyroid, right? Like
which
we monitor as well. It's called, I think 15% have, thyroid issues with their thyroid. Pretty tall and skinny. you know, and it's pretty surprising because all he does for activity is swimming.
Swimming,
so,
yeah, and he doesn't do much else. He likes to. His favorite place is home, right?
Yeah, where do you like to be, Jackson?
You like
Jackson,
to be at home.
look at who's up there.
Who is it?
Who is that?
Who is that?
Is that you? Say hi.
Say hi.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
You're tired? Are you tired?
That's right.
Yeah, you're tired. Yeah.
But yeah, Jackson's favorite place is to be home.
And he does love his daddy.
Yeah, and he's very definitely a daddy's boy, big time. Right?
Yeah.
He's a daddy's boy. I mean, and you know, and it's only makes sense because he looks exactly like Devin. So he's not my kid. He's a daddy boy.
Anyway, yeah. So and the other thing, like I don't know if you've seen, I have this tattoo.
Oh yeah.
On my arm. Oh, I can't get it.
Can't show it.
Can't get it in there.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Right? So that's actually it's a Down syndrome awareness ribbon and
With
Jackson's name on it, right?
Yeah.
Because you know who's gonna advocate for him if not us, right? You know.
But more so than not, it's just more than anything is raising a child with Down syndrome has taught us to sit back and enjoy the moments. So much of parenting is just anticipating the next phase. When will he start walking? When will he write his name? When can I sign him up for soccer? All those kind of things. We had to kind of sit back and just feel him out really to see what he can accomplish or what he can do, because it's basically living day to day. Like, we don't know exactly what the future holds for Jackson. Will he live on his own? You know, will he find a girlfriend? Will he graduate college? Like, I have very much confidence that he will graduate high school, but will he graduate college? Like, what is he going to do? So it's just each phase is quickly followed by another. So we just cherish the moments that flash by in a blur, because they do. He's going to be 13
Yes.
in January. And that's just so hard to comprehend. I can't believe I have a son as old as 13. Like, it's crazy. So we just got to recognize how wonderful they are, because before you know it, it's going to be over. But mind you, we do have an 8-year-old.
That's a whole nother video.
Zachary came when I was 40. So Jackson has a brother, and his name is Zachary. He just turned 8, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's it like having Jackson as your brother?
What's it like?
I help him do his games.
You like to help him and teach him?
Yeah. And actually, studies have shown that siblings with, another sibling has Down syndrome, they actually 88% say their lives are enhanced because
Because of it. They grow up to be more compassionate, more understanding children, right? Because you have patience for Jackson. No, I know Mommy and Daddy have grown a lot of patience. Mm-hmm. Sort of, right? What do you think? Do you love Jackson? Yeah. I think Jackson loves you.
And I'm more of a mommy's boy because I
Yeah,
look more
you look
like
like
her.
Mommy.
More mommy's way.
So we have one, we have one of each. One for Devin and one for myself. 2 with lots.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 is more than enough.
2 was more than enough. Yeah, and then Jackson was 5 years old when Zachary was born. We ended up waiting a little longer than we wanted to have another child, but I wanted to make sure that Jackson, because he was a late walker and all that, that he was at least somewhat independent before we brought another child into the mix with the diapers and everything all over again. So that's why I waited till I was 40.
Right.
But it worked out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely learned how to be an advocate for my child.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of learn as you go along. Like, you don't really know what you're doing until you know your child, you know what's best for your child, you know what you want for your child. So you just have to stick up for your child. If there's anything that's ever going on in their school or their education or their therapies that you don't agree with, definitely say something. Don't feel like you can't say anything. This is your child. This is your responsibility, and they're there to help you. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to push back. They will listen to you, and they do agree. Like, you can come to some agreeable terms on what is best for your child.
Right. And it's, the stats have changed a lot, because of, inclusion and medical advances and stuff. Like, in 1990, the average life expectancy of someone with Down syndrome was only 9 years old.
It's old, yeah.
And even in 1983, which isn't terribly long ago, it was only 25 years old. And today, it's over 60. Yeah. This is the first generation of children with Down syndrome that are probably going to outlive their parents.
Which is like makes me so happy, but it's also kind of scary at the same time.
What does that mean? Like,
because
we're not
if
here?
Devin and I are gone, what happens to Jackson?
You know, and back right, because back in the early 1900s when children were born Down syndrome, they were institutionalized, right? And that's why they didn't live long, because you got no love, no nothing, right? It's just put them in an institution. Well, of course.
But now they're thriving,
right? Because they're just like anybody else, really, right? They want the same things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Jackson he likes ice cream.
Yeah.
He likes chips. He likes.
He's actually been a
French
good eater.
Fries.
I
He's
like
a good eater.
I like suckers.
That's one thing too.
They
A
also
lot
like
of people.
weapons.
I remember when Jackson was a baby, and at 5 months old, he basically told me he wanted to start solid foods. So we did. We started solid foods with Jackson. But I remember going to like Down syndrome conferences and things like that, and there would be kids there, and they're still eating like baby food that were actually older than Jackson. And everybody would be saying to me, "How on earth did you get him to eat that?" And I'm like, he just wanted it. But
his daddy likes to eat too.
One thing I didn't know is taste and texture for someone with Down syndrome is very difficult sometimes. So for them to actually eat a solid food takes quite some time sometimes for some of these kids.
It's low muscle tone.
Yeah, the low muscle tone again, so
to
it's
eat.
harder to chew. And I remember when Jackson was littler, yes, if we gave him something that you had to chew for a while, he would get
the one thing he
exhausted.
doesn't like is rice and like fish because it gets dry and he chews it and chews it.
Yeah.
He'll still eat it, but he doesn't really.
But as he's gotten older, it's gotten much easier.
I like rice.
Yeah. But Jackson likes a very large variety of foods. There's very little he won't eat.
He likes fries, burgers.
Yeah.
He likes McDonald's.
But he also likes vegetables and fruit, unlike somebody else I know.
Yes.
But yeah, so he's a really good eater, always has been. He's
And he loves his video games. And books. He loves looking at books, and he loves his video games. And it actually surprises us how well he does in his video games. He'll actually watch videos on his tablet on how to play the game, and then he'll go play it. He remembers where all the shortcuts are.
He can do better than we can.
Exactly. He knows when to jump, how to defeat the bosses. It's, actually pretty amazing. Pretty amazing, we think anyway.
Yeah. He figures all this stuff out on his own.
Right? He doesn't he may, and he understands a lot. Like he may not communicate the best.
Yeah. His comprehension is very good.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. And we've had him tested for that too, like through speech and stuff. Like his speech therapist always says like his comprehension is fantastic.
And memory games, he's really good at memory games.
He's very good at memory games. So things like that. So yeah, even though he can't, talk, like carry on a normal conversation with us, he's very good at lots of other things. So the speech part is just taking a little longer, but I think he'll get there. I also have him in music therapy because he's always liked music. So I've heard good things about kids that have a delayed speech, putting them in music and getting them interested in sounds, playing an instrument and singing has brought that speech to the forefront. We just want him to be more spontaneous. He has a lot of words. He can say a lot of words, but he just can't piece them all together to get them out. And I think he has a little bit of a stutter because when he tries to say swimming, he's like swimming, right?
Well, it is harder. It's harder
for him, yeah. It's almost like he's got a lisp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also when he says tablet, sometimes he goes tablet and stuff.
And it's hard for him to say certain letters, like the letter B, right? Or the letter T. Sometimes he'll say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
He'll say bye-bye. Yeah, he's done. Bye-bye. Home.
Home. Yeah, you like home?
You say home? Where do you like to be? Where's your favorite place?
Where's your favorite place?
Huh? Come on. Are you tired?
Yeah.
You tired?
Tired.
Oh, yeah.
But
Anyway.
okay.
See? And I didn't even cry.
So Jackson. So that's pretty much it. That's his life in a nutshell so far. He's still got a lot more to do. Still lots more to do, right, Jackson? Right? Right? You gonna say bye?
Can you say bye again?
Bye-bye.
Say bye again?
Can you say bye? Where's the camera?
Bye.
Bye. Can you say bye? Say bye. Say bye.
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 I like
Bye.
weapons.
Bye.
By the way, I have weapons.